Okay, so Ralph Nader is on Jimmy Dore, talking about his new book, and he's using language that I've been using for quite some time. That they're that the so-called political leaders are traitors. That they're bleeding out. That they're bleeding out the public. Basically, making us into nothing more than numerical commodities. And this is stuff that I've been talking about for quite a while. But Ralph says, I wrote the book to talk to Trump voters, and Jimmy is rightfully going after the Democrats. I'm going after the Democrats and the Republicans, but I'm also going after the electorate because it simply comes down to this: the level of uninvestment within the public and the outright criminality of the media, of the corporations, of the politicians, the judges, the DAs, the sheriffs, you name it, the regulatory agencies, whether they be state or local and federal, it's it's all of this. It's the DOD, it's the NSA, it's FBI, CIA, it's your state police, it's your city police, your metropolitan police. It's all of them. It's your school boards. They've all been infiltrated, and there is an uninvestment on the part of the electorate. It is not just Trump voters. It is everybody. It is everybody, with the exception of a few who are thinking crucially and critically, who are seeing through all the veil and mist that is keeping us confused, divided, questioning, hesitant. It is this. It is this whole structural, systemic failure, which has bled in despondency and depression, and turned us inward to trying to protect what little sense of security and goodness and rational rationale and all that, so that we become insular, and we concern ourselves with just what is happening in our immediate lives and trying to protect ourselves. We are building a shell. We are like turtles and tortoises. We have built this shell, and we have pulled in our heads and our arms and our legs to protect ourselves. And we have divested from the community. Why we use words like community, why we use words like compassion, why we use words like morality, why we use words like justice, equality, and all that. We are disinvested. We have become insular. We have decided that only our immediate security, or this false sense of security, is what matters. We have become isolationist. millions upon millions upon millions of isolationists. And the few who have the morality and the justification, who are seeking, even they are fractured. We are not considering the whole picture, even those who are out there protesting, who are trying to move us forward, who are trying to get us into a better place. We have fallen on our swords, and we have decided that it is the end and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the way it is. This is something I always hear. You know, when I talk about the treachery, the treason, the crimes and sins being committed. It's just the way it is. That's the way. That's the way things are. I can only do so much. We get easily distracted, and we become schizophrenic. And I feel like I'm talking into the void. I feel that even with all these little tidbits that we hear on social media and and talking with our family and friends, we still miss the overall. And we get distracted by these little false hopes, thinking. And meanwhile, the grinding down of the very things that we need to survive, the destruction carries on relentlessly. We are facing a time where we have the dogged marching, this relentless, remorseless marching, and time is not on our side. And we face our own self-inflicted demise. I like I like Ralph. I like Jimmy. I like a great many who speak. But the simple fact of the matter is, until we make connections, until we truly believe in community, we truly believe in natural morality, in natural equality, in natural justice, and we reinvest in ourselves and thereby our community, and we come to understand that work, that progress, that moving forward is not in being insular. It's not going out to do work. It's not being able to go out to have a meal at a restaurant. It's not going out to buy the next new thing or even trying to get a cheaper version. It's not about any of that. It's about establishing real community. It's about coming to consensus, a consensus that says we cannot exist in this stagnant, static status quo, and that we must push forward and understanding, and common understanding of that, of the fact that we, in our inaction, in our inability to come to a natural moral outrage, which is self-defense of ourselves collectively in consensus. And until that time comes, until we feel it viscerally, personally, where the vast majority of us come to understand in no way or shape or form that we are all victims of our own static and ignorance, of our own static ignorance, that we have placed gray where there is none, that we have forgotten what it is to love your neighbor, that we have forgotten what it is to be a community, that we have excused our behaviors, whether it is violent or not, the fact that we accept it, the fact that we do not stand up for even just one of us, something that Christians always talk about when Jesus says, when you do unto the least, then you do unto all. And the thing is we are all being pushed to the least, and we all must come to understand that by doing for ourselves collectively and coming to a cemented idea of what morality is, what ethics is, what equality is, what justice is, and understanding that we are all marching towards the oblivion of inequity, of injustice, of selfishness, of not knowing right from wrong. Because I can talk about knowing right and wrong, but even I don't always follow the words I say, because I am distracted, because I jump. We take blind jumps, and that is not a thing. We need to make informed jumps. We need to educate ourselves. We need to rise and shove out the ignorance, that those that we call prejudice, racism, economics, all of that. There is no gray area. It is cut and dry, and the only gray is in the disinformation we are ingesting into ourselves and making a part of ourselves. We must invest in ourselves to be invested in community. We must invest in ourselves to understand love, compassion, empathy, equality, and justice. The ignorance of prejudice, the ignorance of racism, the ignorance of economy, the ignorance of wanting to find some savior, because we collectively are the saviors. It is only through our collective understanding that we will be our own saviors.